Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Females need you just to trick me, trick me, trick me, trick me.
Hi, if you are seeing this, it means my book, Everything Was Here But You, is out now. This book touches on love, loss, grief, and the weird feeling that something is missing when you're building your beautiful, big, accomplished dream life. Check it out now. I'm sure you will find something in this book that you can relate to, and I hope it feels like a huge hug. You can get it now on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Hey everyone, today I'm joined by my favorite human being ever. Hi Alex, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you? This is my
Welcome back.
favorite thing of the day.
Oh, stop. Well, welcome back. It's Friday. We're vibing. You probably had your tea. I had my coffee. We're doing our thing. I loved our episode so much. I wanted to have you back on. How are you doing today? How's your Friday going?
It's going okay. Thankfully, I'm off work today, so it was a slow morning, having a little brunch, cleaning the house, all that.
Love a productive Friday, and now you can like relax the weekend. So
Exactly. I get to just like blob. Although I am filming something this weekend, so
it's so
that'll be
exciting.
fun.
Speaking of filming, I am so beyond like happy about your childhood dream coming true. Do you want to tell everyone before we get into the episode theme what you got to experience like a month ago, right?
Yeah, it was actually insane. When I was a teenager and still now, I'm very proud of being a fangirl. Like a fangirl is my favorite hobby, being like following artists, concerts, also like shows, actors, actresses. That's like my world. I love that. And then last weekend I got to, well, not last weekend, last month I got to volunteer and work at a convention here with like the Twilight cast with the Cullen family. And I got to talking to one of them, and I was like, yeah, when I was like 15 years old in South America, we don't even get like the original books. We don't get CDs, nothing. So I bought this like bootleg, beat up copy of like New Moon because I love that book. And it's like someone designed the cover. It's like the bootleg version, printer paper. It's like all bended. But when I moved to Canada, I was like, this reminds me of like a little part of me that I just want to bring to Canada. And now, like 17 or so years later, I show it to them and they were so happy. They were like, this is the best story. So the entire weekend, they just like spent time with me. They signed my book. So I think my bootleg copy now it's like worth like 4,000 more than what I was actually paid. I'm pretty sure I paid like $2 for it. It was so fun. And then they were so moved by this story. They helped me get tickets for like the Twilight screening that day. I took pictures with them. They signed the books, they made videos and everything. They were like beyond grateful and like beyond like kind. And like my inner fangirl was dying. And it was the last day that I was like chatting with Jasper, Jackson Radbound. I was like, I don't think what has transpired this entire weekend is like settling down until I got home that night and I opened my book and I was like, okay, like 15-year-old me would never ever believe what has transpired. Like not just this weekend, but how far we've come, like how far we've made it, the things that we've made true, like the dreams that I could never even dream of having. Like that's what I'm living right now. And I honestly love that.
No, that's so wholesome. And like, we had a really deep chat because I remember telling you, like, oh, like I was struggling with imposter syndrome and all of this. And you're like, Rylan, like, you were doing some amazing stuff for being 19. And just, you got to remember, like, how far you've come. And then you reflected on your own journey. And I just think it's, like, really important to realize, like, yeah, maybe we're not where we want to be permanently, but we've made it far and we've accomplished so much. And younger us would be so proud. And I think everyone listening should reflect on that before we continue in the episode because it's really, really wholesome to think about. We all are like, rushing in to move to the next thing, achieve something else. And it's like 14-year-old you, 15-year-old you, like 17-year-old you would be like, what the heck? This is our life. This is what we get to do. Like, what a privilege. You know what I mean? It's really important.
Yeah. And speaking of that note, I actually when you were talking about imposter syndrome and like I was talking to you, obviously I was like reflecting on myself as well. And then I was like, I need like a reminder of this. So I got an agenda and it's personalized. It's in
Yeah.
Spanish. But it says sometimes we forget that we're living the moments that before were just dreams. And
No.
that's like my agenda for this year now. And that's just gonna be like, that's my intention for this year. It's kind of like you said, it's so easy to look past everything we'd achieve, especially if we are like overachievers, like you are, Alex, I already know you. Then I feel like you're always thinking about what's the next goal without looking at, hey, I've met 10 goals already. I'm just like looking to the next one, but I've already done so much. And I think we rarely take the time to like stop and be like, okay, it's so good to have like a next goal because you're always like evolving and growing everything. But look back, like see how much of your goals you've already met.
And like I love that so much because like when I was younger, I literally thought like, oh, no one likes me, oh, I suck, oh, whatever. And now I'm like doing all this stuff and people are resonating with me. And I'm like, obviously, like that's not true. Let's let that fear and let that narrative go because I impact people and people appreciate what I do. So I need to let that inner child wound go. But it really does prove that like if you are successful and amazing and unstoppable and overachieving, like if you don't fix your inner child wounds, they will haunt you into adulthood, and you will never feel enough unless you acknowledge how far you've come and that you are enough, because we all are enough.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's something that we touch on. Sometimes the things that happen to us in our childhood is ingrained in like our biology, even like on our like in the way that our brain is wired, the way that the connections work, the way that our neurons communicate with each other, the way like our childhood years are not just formative personality wise, like physiologically they form us, right? So sometimes we have like these responses, and it's not even that like we have to fix our inner child in all types of ways, like physiologically, physically, and mentally, because we kind of just need to rewire ourselves basically. But
Me too.
doing that, like once you kind of undo a little bit of the damage that might have been done here and there, and then learn that, okay, this response is just kind of my fight or flight response that was like fried when I was 10 years old, basically. Now, okay, I know this is like not a great situation, but it's also maybe not the end of the world. So it's just, I learned that recently because it's been a bit of a struggle these last couple months. How to talk myself, like even if I have to like out loud say it and be like, okay, we're okay. We're gonna do this. You've dealt with this before. We can do this. And like, it's just kind of like cheering yourself up, basically.
And it's important. You got to be your biggest cheerleader, honestly. So, you and I have also had a personal chat about undergoing invisible health struggles and not having people really understand, from doctors to people near you. It's so frustrating. And you kind of talked on that a little bit with me. Do you want to share that story with the listeners and tell us a little bit about your journey in that regard of things?
Yes. So, actually, a few years back, after COVID, I had long-term COVID, which means that the sequels of COVID lasted quite a long time. And I started being super, super sick. Would start throwing up. I could not hold anything in my stomach. And so I started to like lose weight and everything. Therefore, I started going to my family doctor, as one does. And the way that the response or like the every single obstacle that I was met with, I was like, it led me to a point where I had to quit my job. I had to move back home in South America. So I had to leave Canada after just becoming a permanent resident. I had to leave my apartment. I had to donate all my stuff because I was so weak. I couldn't take it back home. I didn't have any money for storage because I had to spend it all in like doctors and everything. And I had to go back home at like 30 years old, move back in with my parents. And not only that, like mentally, the issues, because here I was very, very sick. And the doctors kept telling me that it was just anxiety. And I eventually requested my medical transcripts, and all of them said that I was hypochondriac, that I had an eating disorder, that I had anorexia, that I was schizophrenic. My last doctor that had seen me in urgent care had given me a medication that he did not disclose that it was actually for schizophrenia and paranoia. So that really messed up with my mind. And when I went back home, the withdrawal symptoms were horrible. Like I lived for about a week in a state of like basically complete sedation. I was completely delusional. I was hallucinating. I didn't know what was reality, what wasn't. And I made it back home. My parents, obviously, first thing they did, took me to a psychiatrist, psychologist. Thankfully, my parents are very, very understanding. Both of them are scientists, so we're like, we're gonna take a scientific approach to this
Right.
and like go by like do all the studies that we need. So when I was back home, I had given up on myself, honestly. I was like, maybe it is me. Maybe I'm actually crazy. Like maybe I have actually lost my mind and all of these symptoms that I'm having, it's just my mind playing tricks on me. Because that's what all the doctors here kept telling me.
Right.
So long story short, 8 months after I moved back home, by then it had been 2 years that I was sick. I could not keep anything down. I couldn't even have like plain rice, boiled chicken because I would immediately like it would not hold in my stomach.
Right.
About 2.5 years after that whole journey started and I had imploded my life, no money left back all the way in South America with my parents, they realized I had stomach ulcers. Not only had stomach ulcers, my like small intestine, which is essential for like absorption of nutrients and processing the food, was destroyed. Like completely destroyed. The gut bacteria that's supposed to be there was no longer there. It was a bacteria that was foreign and that had colonized it, everything. And because of my small intestine was affected, I was not no longer absorbing nutrients. So I had anemia and I ended up in the hospital because my heart was too weak to keep pumping blood, basically. So I was about to go into a cardiac arrest. I needed blood transfusions and everything.
What?
And I needed oxygen. I collapsed one day from the pain, and that led me to the hospital. And they were like, your daughter's too weak." Like my BP was like 50 over 30, so they were like, "She's going to die at this point." So I had to be hooked to IVs, oxygen. They had to tilt my bed like upside down so that like blood would get into my brain and I wouldn't have like a brain damage or anything like that. So it was critical. And only at that point is that but the doctors back home thankfully have a different approach. So they did believe me, they ran all the tests. That's how they found that my stomach was like all destroyed inside. It had like cuts, it was about to bleed. And the doctors here, my doctor back home, the only thing he said is like, you did the right thing. Even though at that point it seemed like I was just being weak when I moved back home, he was like, any longer than that, and you would have passed away because your body was like slowly shutting down and your heart was slowly like slowing down because it was so weak that at some point it would have just stopped completely. So that was like mind-blowing to me to being like, okay, I could have died. I could have died from like the diagnosis that I had here. And back home, it took them about like 3 days of me being in the hospital to figure it out that like there was actually something physiologically wrong with me. And obviously healing from like physically, but also from the anxiety from like people telling you that you are crazy and people that you trust with your health, just telling you straight out that's all in your mind, that you're imagining things can mess up with your brain incredibly. You don't know what's true. Like you don't know how to trust yourself anymore. You don't know what's reality anymore. So it's been a journey. I'm very grateful for my doctors back home. We're still keeping contact. I can even like WhatsApp them at the end, like in the middle of the night when I'm here, and I talk to them, and they just tell me to go. I switch my family doctors. Obviously, I switched my entire medical team here in Canada when I moved back because I was like, I can absolutely never see them again. So I am back with like a female doctor now. She does believe me. She does trust me. And she basically just listens to whatever my specialists back home get to do. So it's definitely been a journey.
It's just like heartbreaking because like with my journey with POTS, like I remember hearing that, and thankfully like I'm very aware of my body and how I feel, and I have people in my family who are in the medical field, but it's like it's heartbreaking to think like someone might listen to that doctor that's like it's in your head your anxiety, and then they do die because they think, oh, I do need a psychiatrist, my doctor's telling me, and then the real condition gets missed and then they do pass away. It's really heartbreaking. I think medical professionals, some of them are amazing and wonderful, but some of them need to be trained to really look into deeper issues. I think it's really, really important. I mean, you tell someone that, and then next thing you know, they're invalidating themselves. So on
Mhm.
that note, what did it feel like for you mentally to hear that? Like like, oh, it's just in your head, it's anxiety. And how did that affect your body, not only physically, mentally, because you knew something was wrong, but the outside world wasn't reflecting that back to you?
Yeah, and it was, I think I always picture in my, I know it's like dramatic and I do have a flair for the dramatic. So I do feel like there's core memories that I have in which I imagine and I always joke that that's exactly, I can pinpoint the moment in which my brain cracked. You know, in movies when there's like a freeze frame and then just like the freeze frame cracks and it just
Yes.
crumbles? And I can pinpoint exact memories in my life where that has happened. And hearing the doctor, looking at my doctor notes when I was in urgent care, being like diagnosed anxiety, schizophrenia, eating disorder.
Right.
When I had just spent 8 hours in the ER, throwing up, unable to keep anything down, and begging them to help me. I think it was that night in the ER when I realized that I could no longer live in Canada. This was a bigger issue. Something was like wrong either mentally or physically, but that I was not going to make it unless I did that drastical change. And it kind of led me to about 2 years of I had to do intense behavioral therapy, see my therapist multiple times a week when I did started healing physically, because I think it creates a very weird disconnect between what's happening to your body versus what you think is happening.
Right.
And for me, that gets especially enhanced because I know biology.
Right.
I did biology, I did microbiology. I know exactly how our body's supposed to run, so I can pinpoint exactly what's not running right in my body. But then the doctor's telling me that no, it's just in your head. And then I would like read books and books and books of people that were hypochondriac, that how did they overcome all these issues, people that had cancer, and like how do they learn how to deal with the symptoms of cancer and like getting mental strength. Because it really did lead me to believe that I was too weak, that mentally I was like my brain, like whatever was supposed to be there is just was not there. So it led me to a deep depression. It led me to a really, really bad point in my anxiety. And it also led me to kind of question everything I had learned. So I know I not only thought that I was like not a strong enough mental person, I thought that I was not even a capable professional because my profession is biology. I study neuroscience. I went to conferences, I did presentations, I read papers, I did 3 years of study. And they were telling me like, oh, it's all in your brain. And I was like, I don't think that's how it works. I don't think this could be happening. And it led me to believe like what had I even learned in school? Like, could I even be a biologist? Because I don't even understand myself. So it was just a very deep, dark times for me, basically.
No, it sounds like it. And I wanted to ask you, like, do you think the brain often questions itself when it's not believed and it goes through that medical gaslighting?
Yes, because it creates disconnect between obviously the way, for example, our brain is processed, it's all nerve stimulation, right?
Right.
But sometimes those pathways can actually be disrupted. Is what happens with people that undergo amputations and they feel that ghost pain that they say, right? So it's because that neuronal pathway that senses the pain of the limb that's no longer there, it's still like it's still present in the brain, right? So even though there's no outside stimulus, those neurons, that pathway still fires as if there was. So they feel a pain in the limb that they no longer have. It's the routes, like the roads of the brain that are still there. So in my brain, I was like, okay, maybe it is that. Maybe it is something like that. Maybe I'm feeling a pain that's actually not a physical pain. And then for some reason, miraculously, my brain just created this road that could lead me to believe that I was in this pain, or that would lead me to believe that, okay, if I ate this food, it would make me sick, but it was actually just myself making me sick because I was anticipating that sickness. So the way that the brain works is fascinating, and I think also in a way scary because we know so little about how the brain works in even like mice or rats, like we cannot predict it. And in humans, it's like 100 times more complex. I think it's just that awareness of both things can be true, but I really did learn one to really read about how the human body works, and that is something that I encourage everyone that's dealing with medical issues to do. Even if it's like like silly videos on YouTube, like high school 12 anatomy, physiology, because I've actually been told things by doctors that I knew very, very well that that's absolutely, there's no chance that the body can work that way. Like there's absolutely that that could not be true. And even though I knew that it could not be true and that I knew that physiologically I would have to be like a medical miracle for that to be true, they would convince me that no, that could be happening to you. It's never been recorded before. It's it's impossible basically, but you could be the exception. And I think I encourage everyone that's suffering with like chronic issues to read like physiology, anatomy, and it might be tedious or anything, but it gave me a lot of peace of mind, honestly.
I love that so much. I think it's really important because we really do know our bodies best, and no one is going to be able to tell you how your body's feeling but you, and you need to just really push until you get the answers you want. So,
Yeah.
speaking of that, is there research behind the brain-body connection in chronic illness or undiagnosed conditions?
Yes. So undiagnosed conditions lead to basically PTSD because, as I've mentioned before, when you're stressed, when your body is stressed, not even like emotional stress, when your body is in distress for over 45 days, you create basically PTSD symptoms. The way that your brain works is no longer normal. You are exposed to extreme adrenaline, so you basically are intoxicated with adrenaline. It's like, when you have too much coffee and like you know that exact point in which you've officially had too much coffee. It's like that, but our own body keeps generating that adrenaline because adrenaline helps us deal with the pain. If we're feeling like chronic pain, adrenaline and all those other neurotransmitters, the one that help us like with endorphins and everything, and serotonin as well, they are secreted so much, and our brain is bombarded because that's the only way that we can get through the day. If you have chronic pain, you start at a level of stress that it's like 10 times what a regular person is stressed. And if that chronic pain and chronic illness does not get addressed on time, then you are just causing basically, well, not you, but your body is just it's intoxicating itself. The adrenaline that's constantly pumping, you're obviously depressed because the serotonin that you're generating is not enough to triumph the other like neurotransmitters that are generating because you are in pain. The endorphins are never good enough. So if you feel like when you're sick, you're chasing comfort, right? Like you want chocolate or you want pizza and you want this like greasy food, you want sweets. Um, it's because your body is seeking the rush, those peaks of endorphins to counteract the pain that you're feeling. And if you're in chronic pain, you're constantly seeking for that and you need more and more of that, which is why chronic pain is actually really highly associated with drug addiction and drug overuse because the pain is so strong that you need something stronger so your brain can start feeling a baseline of normality over the top of what your brain is feeling with that pain.
I love that. And you're right, like too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. Like too much coffee is bad for you, too much adrenaline is bad for you. And that makes so much sense because I feel like when I'm high on adrenaline, I can't feel the fatigue that I have or any of my POTS symptoms. And that makes so much sense. It's almost like this like little bubble that you're in for a while and you feel actually okay. And it's just your body running on adrenaline. And then you're gonna end up feeling so crappy at the end of the day. Wow, it's insane how that works. Now I'm like, oh, that makes sense how I can do all this stuff.
And you know what's also funny? There's also a lot of studies. There's a study that I really liked, speaking about chronic illness and everything, that said that, for example, anti-anxiety medication, antidepressant medication, and medication that's given to patients in chronic pain, they were all designed for men. So women, when they have chronic pain, chronic illnesses, one, they are less likely to be diagnosed just because of the general bias that there is in the medical system. but also because the medication that they're given may work in men, but they never were accounted for one, that the dose may not work for us because we have a different, obviously, different height, different build-up. Also, it was never adjusted to actually take into consideration the mood fluctuations that we have during like our hormonal periods. So it never accounted for all the hormonal changes that women go through when, and so basically, it's like the medical system, the medication and everything is not entirely designed for women. So women that are in chronic pain are also more likely to turn into alcoholism, and then alcoholism is also harder to be cured in women because all the cures, all the palliatives, everything, it's also not designed for them. It's only designed for like men, basically.
Insane how that works, isn't it?
It's wild. And when I first heard that, it basically was a study about a cohort in depression. And out of, let's say, 10 people that they had, 10 men with the right medication, 8 of them just kind of were able to get out of the depressive episode. In the 10 women that they studied, it was like 2 or 3 women that were able to get out of the depressive episode with the same medication as the men, just because that's when they realized, okay, we did not account for the mood fluctuations, we did not account for the hormonal changes, we did not account for like how the metabolism of the women processes the medication differently. So therefore, the dose that we're giving them, it's a lot lower than it should be. It should have been a lot stronger for them to actually get better.
Makes
It
so
was
much sense.
wild.
But interesting. I feel like women are also more prone to be dismissed because we'll also be told by professionals, oh, it's your period, it's your menstrual cycle, like
Mhm.
that's why you're not feeling well. And I'm just like, what? How does that even make sense? Why are we just blaming anything? Ugh, these doctors, some of these
But
doctors.
when I was sick, I remember at some point I got so fed up because every time I would go to the doctor and they're like, okay, we're gonna run a pregnancy test. And they wouldn't even tell me at some point when they would like draw blood. And by the third time they run the pregnancy test again, I straight up said to the doctor, I was like, listen, we've run 3 back-to-back pregnancy tests. Nothing has changed. I still don't have a partner. At the time, I had an IUD. It's like, if this comes back positive suddenly, then we're going to have bigger issues because this is the second coming of Jesus Christ at this point. Like, there's no way that this could be happening. And that's only when they stopped running the pregnancy test on me because that was their diagnosis. It's like, it's been shown I'm not pregnant. Nothing has changed in the last 7 weeks. What is wrong with you?
Oh my God. How would you say medical validate like invalidation affects your nervous system long term?
The problem with medical invalidation is that it creates one, you're in chronic pain all the time. So because you're in chronic pain all the time, because the doctors do not believe you, you are more likely again to end up going, not always, but you're more likely to try to look for those endorphins somewhere else. So it can lead to alcohol abuse, drug abuse, any type of addiction, gambling, anything that generates endorphins, because you need those endorphins to actually overcome that pain. The second thing is that it exposes your body to that stress, which after 45 days, we know it's no longer reversible. So you will probably experience some PTSD symptoms and everything else. And third, and I think that's the most dangerous one because that is kind of what happened to me, is that it creates a divide between the reality and what you think it's real, which eventually is what led me to like straight up thinking that I was like delusional. It creates a delusion, but like a clinical delusion in which I no longer know if this is real or not. Like it can lead to actually schizophrenia and paranoia, and then you go deep down into this like spirals that sometimes you no longer can come back from. I was very lucky that I was able to move back to another country with a completely different medical system with 2 parents that are both scientists and they decided to take the like most experimental approach that they could take to try to solve this. But I've seen other people get lost in that and then just never come back from it. It's just they just end up one of my dad's like very, very close friends ended up turning to alcoholism, lost his family, lost the house, and the last time we ever saw him, he was just roaming the streets looking for like more alcohol. And that had all started from like these ulcers that he had in his like foot that they just didn't get treated right.
What?
And that's how bad it spiral. Yeah.
Insane. It's insane. It's like if you don't, again, like if you don't take care of yourself, your body is going to destruct like this, but also like if the doctors don't help you, it's going to get worse for you mentally, and then it will turn into anxiety and all the things that they are saying the condition is. It's like mental and physical health really go hand in hand, and I think
Yeah.
we need to realize that again, and I think more research needs to be done for these medical professionals to know about all of these conditions. It's really sad how many invisible illnesses there are that patients aren't believed, and then it might turn into more of a mental health crisis at the end of the day, because how much can you take of, oh, I don't know what's wrong with you, you know what I mean? It's really sad.
And I think also when you get a diagnosis, I think it's important to know, okay, physiologically, physically, I know how to get better. Like for me, that was the thing, right? I can get my stomach better, I can start eating, I know what medication to take, and I can deal with this. But then you have to start healing mentally as well, because your brain basically just got all messed up. It's as if, like, you have PTSD symptoms that you may not even know that are happening. I always encourage people to seek help with like a mental health professional because they'll be able to, you may not realize at that point that you have trauma, basically, you have been traumatized
Really.
and that you need to heal mentally as well so that your body can also heal at the same time.
Medical trauma is so real, so that goes to my next question. How did that experience change how you see yourself or your body?
I think I always hate it when people are like, oh, but the experience made me stronger. Because when you're going through it, I hate that. I'm like, I don't want to be stronger. I just want to be fine.
Right.
But it is actually true. It led me to one, I'm very, very grateful that I had the back knowledge to be like, okay, I know what's not working in my like body right now. So what are the alternative medications that are being used right now? I love doing like a good research, literature research, read articles about what's the new medication. I'm always trying to keep on top of what's the new medication, what are the new studies, what is this showing, like all of that. It also led me to be more confident in a way because I was right. It was not my brain. I was not losing my mind. In fact, my doctors back home, the first thing that they said were like, why didn't you come in sooner? And I was like, well, I didn't live in the country. And they were like, that's preposterous. Like, if you were here, I would sue. I would
Right.
sue that person. I would sue that doctor
Literally.
because what the hell? And they were amazed that my body had been able to last that long in those conditions. So I was like, wow, maybe I am badass after all, because like
You
look at
are.
everything that I've endured and I'm still kicking it here.
Exactly.
So
You're so smart. You're so intelligent. That's something I really admire about you. Just like the fact that you, one, have enough awareness in your body to know, like, I am not feeling well and it's not what the professionals are telling me, but you're so beyond smart with just neuroscience and life itself. You're so emotionally intelligent. So it's like, it's insane how, like, doctors wanted to shrink you into a little box that you knew yourself that you did not fit into. And that is badass of you.
And honestly, that also led me how to like advocate for myself a lot better. I actually just had an injury. I broke my wrist. I dislocated my wrist and I was just carrying Amazon boxes. I can't even lie. I can't even say it was something exciting. I
God,
was carrying Amazon boxes. They were too heavy and
boxing
I
a
was too
shark?
fragile for help.
You were boxing a
So
shark? I know you were.
yeah, exactly. So I dislocated my wrist, immediately called like for help. They were like, just ice it, wait a week. I went to urgent care. They ran the x-ray. They were like, there's nothing wrong with it. I was like, no, I know there's something wrong with it.
Right.
So I kept going back to the doctor every single week. For 4.5 weeks, I went back to the doctor. I went to like four different clinics. I went to three different physiotherapists until finally the last physiotherapist that actually like listened to me to all the symptoms and I could tell that they were doing the right thing. They actually realized that my bones had been dislocated the
Oh
entire
my
time. So by then
goodness.
it had been 5 weeks that the bones were dislocated. And that I went back with that information to my family doctor. I told them, listen, my physiotherapist said my bones are out of place. I need to run an X-ray and we need an ultrasound to see if the ligaments are affected. Effectively, I had torn my ligament as well because the bones were dislocated. And so obviously it took a way longer than it should have, but I didn't leave it on like, oh yeah, no. They said that it's okay. They said that it's just pain. They say that it's just a bruise. They say that it's just like a soft tissue injury. No. I was like, I know there's something wrong. This pain is not normal. The range of motion is not normal. These measurements are not right. Fix it. And I went back and I went back and I went back and I went back until they finally run all of the tests that they should have run it from the beginning.
And having that awareness and trust within yourself is so important because I think, like, unfortunately, it's so easy to be misdiagnosed, and you have to really advocate for yourself. That is something I really admire about you. And a lot of people who deal with chronic pain, like, they tend to put themselves first and advocate for themselves because you have to. If you want answers, you got to keep fighting and pushing for them.
Yeah, and I something that I also encourage people to do is to look up, Google their medication before you take it. Because they had given me, the doctor, she was being good and that she was giving me an anti-inflammatory because obviously my wrist was all swollen and it was going to help with the pain. The pain was unbearable by that point. And then the first thing that she gave me, I Googled it, and the specific contraindication was like, do not take it if you had stomach ulcers. It will make your stomach bleed, basically. So then I had to go back and be like, listen, I know you didn't have time to look at my chart, but this is what the condition I have. I cannot take this medication. Give me an alternative medication that's safe for this condition I have. Because had I just taken it, oh, I would have reverted 2 years back with my
Right.
stomach issues. But thankfully, I Googled it and it's better now. It's okay.
Thank you, Jesus. Like, what in the world? I think, like, again, like, that is something I really admire about you. It's you're such a good advocate for yourself. And like, you have to put yourself first and you have to fight for answers because no one is going to do that. But thank you, God, you got off that medication because it could have been worse. Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine. So
Yeah.
I guess my next question is, what helped you create that trust within yourself after all of this gaslighting you were undergoing within the medical field?
I think it was a few things. I am a very experiment, science, evidence-based person. So for me, like hearing a doctor, finally a doctor that was actually specialized in that type of condition, be like, this is exactly, he tried to explain it to me with like small little pictures and like, and I was like, no, no, no. Like, I know biology. I need you to tell me exactly that, like, you would tell a fellow like doctor what is going on in my body. That helped me because in scientific terms, my brain could understand it better than if it had just been like a drawing type of like explanation. So that really helped me like understand what was going on and help with my confidence. I do like to read quite a bit. So again, I like to read about my condition. I like to follow other people on TikTok, like what's the new, not trend per se, but like what's the new study, what's like the new diet that's kind of working. I also work with a nutritionist back home that whenever I find a new professional or someone that I know I'm looking for help for this specific problem, I did get into the habit now of reading their qualifications and seeing what was their past experience to see if it actually would fit what I'm looking for. And this person had experience in that. So I learned a lot about how to manage my condition. And when I learned what was working, I can learn how to like patch things up if they start breaking a little bit. And then mentally, I did behavioral therapy with a fantastic therapist that would give me homework. They would be like, okay, write the thought that's make you anxious, and then scientific evidence base, like why that's not true. For example, whenever my stomach would start hurting, I was like, oh my God, it's happening again. Like this is all happening again. Like I'm gonna go end up back in the hospital. And then he was like, okay, L- even let's leaving emotional things aside. What are the odds of the same thing happening now that you know that you have a diagnosis? Now that you are under the right medication? And then he would make me actually like calculate the probability of like one in like whatever many events and do the math and be like, okay, so does this sound like a good probability? No. Okay, so then it's not the same thing that's happening. Like you know how to handle it. You have to trust the tools that you have, which was a great lesson that he gave me. You have to trust what you've learned. Again, how far you've come, the tools that you have medically and mentally to not go back down that rabbit hole basically in which you ended up. And that's kind of what gives me the confidence in it now.
I love that. I think it's important to realize that because again, like it's so easy to get caught up in that spiral of like maybe they're right, maybe there is nothing wrong with me, but you have to have self-awareness and the confidence to believe in yourself. And no, you know your body best. No one knows your body the way you do. And that's something that is a double-edged sword because it's like while these doctors don't understand our pain and that's amazing that they don't, sometimes you almost wish they did because then they would realize how we need help and how it's immediate, what's going on with us. So,
Yeah.
I want to kind of touch on some more emotional questions. So, what is something you wish someone said to you during that time of your life?
I believe you. I believe you would have changed my life at some point. And it is, I think the first time I heard it, I was already back. I had moved back home for about 3 or 4 months by then. And I was just crying in my bed. My best friend had come over because I was having a panic attack. And then I was like, I feel like I'm not getting better. Because at that point, I didn't have a diagnosis quite yet. So the operating idea was still that it was more like a anxiety type of thing that was affecting my stomach. And I was like, I'm under the right anxiety medication. I'm no longer anxious. I don't have these thoughts of like, oh my God, I'm actually going to die. But my stomach is not getting better, so I'm not getting better. And I was just crying like on the floor in my bedroom. And my dad came in, he sat down with me and he told me two things that were like, for me, that was another pinpoint moment in which everything changed. One was like, I wish I could take the pain from you, but I cannot do that work for you. Unfortunately, this is a fight that you're gonna have to see through. Like, if I could take all your pain, I would, but I'm going to be here holding you, but you have to fight it yourself. Fight it. Keep going. And that's something that at the time, it was like, keep going. I could hear. And the second one was, I believe you. My dad was my biggest advocate, not even my mom. My mom at some point was like, I think it's your anxiety. My dad was like, no, I know my daughter. She's not weak. I did not raise her to be weak. I did not raise her to like give up. This is something bigger. This is not anxiety. There's physically something wrong with her. And he took me to up to 7 different specialists. He took me to all the clinics, sometimes even behind my mom's back at some point, because my mom was longer like, we don't want more tests. My dad was like, no, we need to figure something out. He took me to all the like lab appointments, to everything that he could take me until we figure it out. And to me, having an ally at that point was like obviously changing, was life changing. It finally started to get better. But had I had that ally 2 years earlier, we would have never gotten to that point. So I think that I believe you would have been the turning point for me earlier on.
And that's everything because it's like, I'll never forget like the way this podcast was started. I actually was crying in my car after an appointment where a doctor invalidated me and was like, "Oh, it's in your head." I was like, "You know what? I've had the idea to start a podcast for a while. I am done feeling alone in this, and I know someone else out there is feeling this too, and I need to create this space." I honestly thought no one would care, no one would like it, whatever, and then it went global, and now here I am talking to people like you who, we're relating to people listening who might be dealing with this. And I just think it's absolutely horrible to have that feeling of crap. Like, I feel so unwell. No one believes me. I'm stuck in this pain forever. And knowing that you had support, a little bit of support, but really no one, even you can have people around you, but just because you have people around you doesn't mean they understand. And that almost feels worse because then it's like, ugh, and then they're like, you look fine, you look amazing, just like go function, get up and do your normal stuff. You're so young. And then you're like, yeah, but I literally feel physically ill. You know what I mean? Like I know you get that. So it's like,
That you're so young but you look fine. Ooh, I hated hearing
me
that.
too.
I absolutely hate it. I think two of my doctors actually said like, oh, you can't be this young and be this sick already. What are you gonna do? Like, basically they were like, if you're this sick already at this age, you're gonna die young.
Girl,
Wonderful.
or like fix
Exactly what
it.
I needed to hear at like
Right.
20
Like
when I started getting sick. I
you're
was like
a doctor.
25, 26 years old.
You're a doctor. Fix it.
Exactly. But like, but you don't look ill. Yes, because I just threw up in your reception for like 25 minutes before I walked in here and I'm holding that back right now so I don't puke on you. Obviously, I don't look unwell. Do you want me to puke on you? Would
Right.
that make it more believable?
Right. Literally, like, just like put a microphone up to my stomach ulcers. You know what I mean? Like, let them talk for
Exactly.
themselves. But it's
Exactly.
really heartbreaking. So I relate to you and empathize with you there. Which I think is what I want to ask you next. If someone listening isn't being believed for their struggles, what do you want to tell them?
I think I would tell them three things. One, it's again, the thing that it would have saved me at that point, that I believe you. If you are feeling pain, if you're feeling sick and you're like, something is not right, I know my body, read a little bit about it and you're like, okay, this is how a normal body should function. Mine is not doing that. Believe yourself. You are absolutely right. Like if something you feel like it's not right, a lot of the times obviously we're just like anxious, a little bit oversensitive, but if you compare it, like if you have literature, physical, scientifical, empirical evidence that something is not working the way that it should be working, I absolutely believe you. I absolutely believe you. The second thing is fight for yourself. That's something that has always resonated with me. It's one of the tattoos actually that I have. It was this actress that I really admire, and one of the last times that we saw each other, the last thing that she said to me was fight for yourself.
Love that.
Fight for yourself. And I was like, and what if I can't do it anymore? And she was like, and then we keep going. And then we just keep going. You take a moment, you cry it out, and then we keep going. We keep fighting for ourselves. We don't give up because we owe it to ourselves. Like, we are so worth it. We are like, the world genuinely is better when we are in it. So we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to the people that love us to fight for ourselves until we get an answer that's helping us, until we get the treatment that we deserve to help us with that pain. And the third thing really is read about it. Like, obviously, don't WebMD it. I don't trust WebMD, but look for like actually like peer review scientific articles that are talking about people that may have had similar symptoms to you. Because there are diseases, there are syndromes that are really, really rare, but they exist. So don't look WebMD your symptoms, but there's actually now like pretty good AI open sources that are in the medical field specifically. I think one of them is called Mila, and that helps giving you, I wouldn't use it as a diagnostic tool, but okay, it told me that it could be this. If I read some articles about it, does it sound like me? Does it sound that something, because for me, here, going to a doctor and be like, hey, I am diagnosed with this, if they don't have to do the work, they will believe you. That's the thing. That's if they don't have to think it out, if they don't have to do that research, they are most likely to believe you because they just want a quick fix. So if you're like, okay, I have POTS like you have, I have stomach ulcers, you don't have to do the testing. Like I already have the testing, I already have the backing. I know this is my condition, just fix it. That's like a 5-minute consultation for you. They are more likely to believe you, unfortunately.
Insane. That's insane
Right?
to me. What
Mm-hmm.
the hell?
Yeah.
The world we live in really needs to make some changes.
Yes, it is. And I have to say, it is more than a North America problem. Like my doctors back home, the first time I traveled abroad, when I was still undergoing treatment, I went to Brazil and they had that heat wave that actually ended up killing people. My psychiatrist, my GI specialist, and my general family doctor called me and they were like, we heard about the heat wave. We know you're in Rio. Are you okay? I know people in Brazil. If you need medication, are you hydrating? Go to the pharmacy and ask for this and this and this, and you should be fine. And I was like, wow, you care for me. Like you see me as a person that is trying to live a life and that has these conditions, and you're like, okay, so this is happening, like anticipate, do this, do that. And that care, that like empathy is something that I never experienced with doctors here, but does exist somewhere else. If you have the means to maybe go somewhere else, go somewhere else.
I love that. I really do.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what is something people don't understand about being sick and not being believed?
I think one, I had a, I lost quite a few friendships because I no longer was the person that I was at the beginning. So I lost quite a few, I lost touch with quite a few of my closest friends in university. I lost touch with people that I thought were going to be in my life forever because I no longer had the time or the energy to invest in that friendship. And it is maybe fair because maybe they felt I was neglecting them, abandoning, I was not being a good friend. And I think that very few people actually understand that like that I genuinely do feel sorry that I was being a bad friend, but I couldn't even get out of bed sometimes. Like I had spent 12 hours. There was one time I spent 3 whole days throwing up almost every 2 hours. I was like, I can't go out to your birthday. I absolutely cannot go for dinner. I cannot go for drinks. Like even if like I can't leave my house. Like I can't leave my washroom. I slept in my washroom because I was throwing up so much. I didn't even have time to move to my bed. And I think it was a really hard pill to swallow to see that, yeah, like people were moving away from me because I was sick all the time, because I didn't have the energy to do things that I usually do, because I was no longer like a very cheerful, very like, oh yeah, let's go like dancing, let's go all of these things. I was like a very moody, like a very gray version of me, basically. And I think that was a very hard pill to swallow, basically. And I think even my family, a lot of my extended family were like, no, they were very cautious about whether they believed that I was actually sick or not, or if I was using it as an excuse to get out of doing things. And I'm like, it's not an excuse. I will throw up at your like child's, at my cousin's like baptism if I go to church. I'm not trying to get out of going to church. I'm actually ill.
Literally. And like I hate that people think like who would want to make something like this up? Like that's really unfortunate. And it's really unfortunate that like you really do lose friends when you get a chronic illness. And it's unfortunate because it's like
Yes.
it's not like we just wake up and we're like, yeah, I'm gonna be sick. Like, yay, I picked this for myself. Like you would think that people want to learn and adapt and understand and realize like maybe you can't be, active and talk to people as much and go hang out with people, but like the right people will make adaptations for you. They'll FaceTime you, they'll call you, they'll, come to your house, they'll come to your space where you're comfortable and will want to be in your life no matter what. I think, getting sick and getting diagnosed with something really shows you who your people are. And if they're going to leave, then they weren't really your person, anyways.
Yes. And I think that was very incredibly difficult for me to swallow because in university, I was in a sorority. So I was used to having like dozens of girls around me all the time and being like all surrounded by people and like friends and everything, right? So it was hard for me to go from like having like a group of 30 people that I can go out with to like there is one friend that will sit next to me in my bed and wait till I'm done like being sick and come back and like watch, I don't know, High School Musical with me and then like sit with me through my panic attack. Like I realized that out of those 30 people, maybe three or four of them were actually my people. They were just people, not my people.
Exactly. And I think that's really important to realize the difference. So, to wrap this up, I want to ask you if your younger self during that period could hear you now, what would you tell her?
I would tell her that it 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 will actually be okay. Not in the way that we wanted it to be, not in the way that we had planned it to be, but it will be okay in its own weird, kind of funny way. I always joke with my friend. We say that things that happen in our life are like haha funny, but not actually funny, like in a dark sense of humor type of funny. And I would probably tell her that we're gonna learn, it's gonna be a crash course in dealing with a lot of things that we probably should have addressed before, and that we're gonna meet wonderful people along the way. And then it's gonna be a crazy journey that if we could skip, we would, but it'll eventually lead us to a good like finish line, basically.
And I think that's really important. Well, how can we follow you on Instagram, Alex? Where can we find you at if we want to follow and support you? I truly adore you so much, and I think you are so intelligent. So thank you for coming back on the podcast. I love our chats. I feel like they're so healing. But what's your Instagram? I know what it is because I'm cool like that, but tell everyone where they can find you.
Yes, I'm always open to like come chat with me if you're dealing with chronic issues, mental health, or even if you just want to be like a fangirl sometimes. I'm on Instagram with Alex underscore Vela M, so Velam. So my DMs are absolutely always open. I love chatting with people. I love making new friends. Even online friends are real life friends.
Yes.
And I thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I absolutely adore chatting with you. Honestly, it has been the best thing of the last 2 years to get to know you.
Oh, girl, I adore you so much, and I'm really glad we found each other. You are such a ray of sunshine and inspire me more than you know. Do you want to take a quick picture?
Yes, wait, let me just
Yay.
I love this.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you. This was so fun. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
thanks, girl.
I'll see
Love
you on
you.
Instagram.
Yes, I'll see you on Instagram. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.